fun stuff happening here in the studio. Welcome everybody to Dulcimerica. My name is Bing Futch. Thank you for joining me. It's August 2025 and we've had an amazing summer so far. Lots of exercises on the mountain dulcimer. Now we are looking to do a little bit of work with those exercises and incorporate them together with chords, melody, and harmony, not necessarily in that order. So I want to show you where these zones are located on the mountain dulcimer. When you're tuned D-A-D and you're looking for D, you're looking for G, and you're looking for A, when those chords come up, when those keys come up, and what you can do with them. So let's go ahead and start by looking at the D zone. I'm going to take us back to our overhead view. And then I'm going to do some drawing here. I'm going to show you where these zones are located, starting off with our D zone. So if we start from the nut here, and go across the 3rd fret. There we have our D zone. And that is where the D major scale is located in a very convenient pattern across the bass and the middle string. So if I start from the open on the bass string, open 1, 2, 3 on the bass string gives me the first 4 notes of the D major scale, also known as the lower tetrachord, but you don't really have to know that stuff. And then we go to the middle string and play the exact same frets. Open 1, 2, and 3. As you might have guessed, that's the upper tetrachord, but again, you don't have to know that. What we do know is that we have a full scale here for D major. And it lives inside that box right there with the first 3 frets. That's the D zone. And let me go ahead and just say the names of the notes. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, the octave. But there are 7 different notes. And those 7 notes are used to create melodies. They are also used to create harmonies, and they create all 7 of the chords that come with every single key. We're going to look at building those here in a second. But that is your D zone. Now, just because we know that our scale includes these 4 notes, on the bass string, tune D, those same 4 notes obviously are on the melody string. So even though we have a full 8-note scale on the bass and on the middle string, we also have 4 notes on the melody string that belong to that scale and also belong to that key. So everything inside of the yellow box is fair game in the key of D major and fair game over a D major chord. All right, so we have our D zone. Now it is time to move on to the G zone. Let me go ahead and draw another box here. And the G zone is going to start the 3rd fret. It's going to move through the 6th fret. So we're encompassing 4 frets, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And G is right here at the 3rd fret. So we go G, A, B, C, and then D, E, F sharp, G. There are the 8 notes all together. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. There in the G zone, from the 3rd fret to the 6th fret, we have our G major scale. So if you have a G chord playing, any of those notes inside of that box are going to work, especially also here on the melody string from 3 to 6. Or if you're playing in the key of G major, you're going to find everything you need right here inside of this box, as long as you're playing within the key. Finally, we are going to be moving on to our next box. Our next box is the A box, or the A zone, if you will. And we're going to go ahead and erase our G box, G zone, Cheetos. Okay, and then I'm going to go all the way up here to the 7th fret. So our A zone is going to encompass the 4th through the 7th frets, starting at the 4th fret, which is A. And we're not going to use the 6th fret. The reason for that is that the key of A major has 3 sharps, F, C, and G sharp. And at the 6th fret, we've got C and G natural. So neither of those notes are going to work for us. We're going to want to pick them up at the 6.5 fret, where they're C sharp and G sharp, just 1/2 step higher. So we're going to skip the 6th fret and go 4, 5, 6.5, 7, and then on the middle string, same thing, 4, 5, 6.5, 7, and here are the names, or the notes names rather. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. There are our scale notes, and we're living there in the box. We also know that we've got the melody string 4, 5, 6.5, 7 that will also give us the notes of the scale. If you're playing in the key of A major, everything is between 4 and 7. And if you are playing over an A major chord, everything is right there in the box between 4 and 7. All right, so there are the locations of our boxes or our zones. And whenever you think D, you can hang out down here. Whenever you think G, you can hang out here. Whenever you think A, you can hang out here. So let's take a look at what is really happening inside of these boxes. And we're going to start here with D major. So we have our 7 notes of the scale, and those 7 notes can be used for melody. So all your melody will come from that pool. The other thing that we're going to be looking at here is how to create some harmony by layering these notes and stacking them so we can get harmonies, and also how we can get at least 3 of those notes stacked, and then we have chords. All right, so we have our 7 notes of the scale, and just below that we've got Roman numerals, 1 through 7. So each note also gets its own specific number. This is going to be very, very important later on. We use Roman numerals because we can show uppercase and lowercase, and that's really important here, and you'll see why here in a second. So we've got 1, 4, and 5 are uppercase Roman numerals. If we build off of those notes, using those notes as the root, we get major chords. If we build off the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th notes of the scale, we end up with minor chords. That's why they're lowercase. And if we build on the 7th scale degree, we get a diminished chord, and so it's lowercase with a degree symbol, and that's a shorthand way of looking down and seeing what the nature of those chords are, what the quality of those chords are, without having to actually look at the chord themselves. We'll write those numbers out, and those numbers are going to be the same for every key that we play in. So a 1, 4, 5 chord progression in the key of D major is going to sound a little different, but it's going to move the same distance or the same interval between notes and chords that you do in a different key. So D, G, and A, the 1, 4, 5 chord movement sounds the same. It feels different, but you're moving the same distance in these different keys. We'll go down the road with that one a little bit deeper. Right now, I'm going to cut to the chase and show you this cool trick so you can find out what chords are in every key. Starting from the first note of the scale, we're writing only the 7 notes. Don't write all 8 notes because this trick won't work otherwise. We're going to start from the first note. We're going to build off the first scale degree. So let's start with D major here. D. We're going to hop over E and add F sharp to our stack. Then we're going to hop over G and add A to our stack. So you see the pattern? Every other note is what you want until you have 3 total notes, starting with that scale degree that you want to build on. So our results for D major are D, F sharp, and A, and those are the 3 notes inside of D major. So if we do that from the 4th scale degree, we have G, hop over A, land on B, hop over C sharp, and now we've run out of scale. What do? We start again from the beginning. And that's why you don't want to write out all 8 notes of the scale, because it'll throw off your calculations. So after C sharp, we hop over it, we're landing on D. So G, B, and D are the 3 notes inside of G major. Do the same thing for A major. Start with A, hop over B, land on C sharp, wrap around, hop over D, land on E. A, C sharp, and E are the 3 notes inside of A major. That's super easy, right? That works for every single note. Just start from that note where you want to build the chord, from any of the notes in the scale, and hop, skip, and jump until you have 3 notes, and those 3 notes are what belong to that chord. Really fun stuff, right? So our results in the D zone are going to be this. I'm going to show you how to play each one of these chords so you can see where it lives right here. Now, every single chord that we play on the mountain dulcimer can be played in a number of different ways. So I'm going to show you one example, but there are at least 2 other examples of that chord that you can find further up the fretboard. We're just going to try and keep it here in the box though, so I'm going to show you just the one shape. Starting off with D major, super easy. D major, it's going to be a 0, 0, 2. That's our 1 chord. Now we're going to go into our E minor, 1, 1, 3. Our L-shaped chord there, that is E minor. Move your L shape up to where you're playing a 2, 2, 4, and this is the only time that we're actually getting outside of our zone. We're going up here to the 4th fret, so we're just 1 fret above where the zone is, but that's fine. It's not very far away at all. 2, 2, 4 is our F sharp minor. That's based off the 3rd scale degree. We're now going to go here to our 4 chord 3, 1, 0 G major. There's our 4 chord, very, very popular. We're now going to go to our 5 chord, and we're going to do this. We're going to use the old-fashioned easy 101 for A major, although it's not a full A major chord, because a full A major would have A, C sharp, and E, while our 101 chord only has A on the middle string, E on the bass, E on the melody string. What are we missing? If you said C sharp, you're correct. Well, how is this an A without a C sharp in it? It's a different kind of A. The A we're playing here with a 101 only has the root of the chord, A, and the 5th of the chord, E. So for that reason, it has a number of different names. Root 5 chord is one of them, or you can also call it a 5 chord. This would be written A with a number 5 next to it. You could also call it a power chord. The cool thing about chords that don't have a third, a major third or a minor third in the middle, is that you can use that chord as either a major or a minor chord. A 101 chord will work as a major chord, but it'll also work as a minor chord. Well, how? Why does that work? Well, let's look at a major and minor chord, for example. I'm going to play an A major, which is A, C sharp, and E. It's a 4, 4, 6.5 L shape that I'm playing. The root of the chord is A. That's on the bass string. The major third is on the melody string at the 6.5 fret. So the distance, the interval between A and C sharp is a distance of a major third. Because we're in a major scale, an easy way of looking at this would be go A, B, C sharp, 1, 2, 3. There's the third. But if we were coming out of a full chromatic scale, we'd need to know the difference between the major and the minor interval. So this is a major third interval, this between A and C sharp. Below my thumb, I've got another fret, and it's a skinny fret, which means it's only a half step. And that means I can take C sharp down a half step by moving my thumb to the 6th fret and play C natural, not C sharp. Now the distance between A and this note here is smaller, it's shorter. We're no longer going as far as A to C sharp, we've come down a half step. That shorter interval is called a minor third interval, and it sounds like this. And because we changed the third from major to minor, you guessed it, we now have an A minor chord as opposed to an A major chord. Move my thumb from C to C sharp, and I get my A major chord. Our E, the perfect 5th, is there on the middle string. So just by changing the major third to the minor third and back, completely changes the character of this chord, right? From A major to A minor and back to A major again. A major, A minor, A major, A minor. Take the third out of the picture. And all you're left with is the root of the chord on the bass string. I bar my L-shaped chords, so I've got another A on the melody string, and I got an E on the middle string. The root's there, and the 5th is there. That's all. So it's a root 5 chord, or a power chord, or an A5 chord. Bottom line is, without the defining nature of the third, this is an ambiguous chord. Our bar chords are open chord. All of our bar chords are 5 chords. Because our open tuning is a 5 chord, D. D on the melody string as well. A, the perfect 5th, on the middle string. What are we missing? For D major, F sharp. F sharp is the major third interval above D. And without it, That means that our open strum can be either a D major or it can be a D minor. We can add the thirds back in there to give them their full flavor, but isn't it nice to know that our bar chords can be either or? Someone says to you, can you play a B major? Normally we might say, no, I can't. But if you play a bar 5, we may not have a D sharp there to make it a full B major chord, but we have enough of the notes, B and F sharp, to go ahead and make it what it needs to be, which is a B major chord. It's little tricks like that that actually make the mountain dulcimer a lot easier to sneak into a jam, like a songwriter jam, where they're playing all different types of keys. All right, so I wanted to point that out to you, what these chords are, and the 101 chord that we play a lot for A major is not a full A major chord, but it still does the work very nicely. Let's continue on. We took a little side trip, but I think it was justified. Now we're going to go ahead and play the chord built off of the 6th scale degree. That's going to be B minor, 2-1-0 for that shape here in the D zone, B minor, and then finally we're going to go and play that diminished chord. So we hear major chords are up and happy sounding, minor chords are kind of sad and serious sounding, and diminished chords are full of tension. This is a 3-2-1 C sharp diminished chord. It's got a real mystical kind of quality to it, but it feels very much like it wants to keep moving on and doing something else, doesn't it? You play a major chord. I'm a major chord. I'm happy to sit here in B major. Here's a minor chord. I'm an A minor. I'm just happy to sit here. Those are just very, very restful chords. They're not restless. You could play them and let them fade out and nothing seems wrong, right? But if you play something with this tension inside of it, it's longing, it's very not resolved. It wants the other shoe to drop. And so that describes why we like to use this chord to move other places. So a diminished chord, its function, its primary function, is it really wants the next chord in line to be the tonic or the root chord, in this case, D major. Listen to how satisfying it is when I move from this chord to D major. Wow. That's a microphone drop right there. Now, and that last chord is very restful. It can sit there all day long and it doesn't feel like it has anything else to say. We can move other places and come back to that chord as often as we want to. But as soon as we come back to that C sharp diminished, it's pretty, but it has something more to say. It's not quite rested yet until we resolve it. Let's resolve it down to an open. We won't even have all 3 notes of D major here. We're just going to go ahead and drop it to a power chord. And listen to the resolution anyway. Woof. Very, very solid resolution on the end of that. That's what you might use a diminished chord for, in case you were ever wondering. It's like a 7th chord, like a dominant 7th chord. It has the same sort of feel. And actually, in this key, it shares the same notes as the dominant 7th built off of the 5 chord, which is A7, by the way. You could play an A7 the exact same way, 3, 2, and 1. Coming up here to the G zone. So we start off with G major, 3, 3, 5. Now, I could do this with a capo, and I think I actually will do it just so we can preserve the chord shapes. So I'm going to put the capo here at the 3rd fret, so you don't have to work nearly as hard. So just one finger, all of our same chord shapes from here in the D zone will work here as well. And that's kind of a cool thing to know. So our 1 chord is going to be open, open, 5. Then we're going to our 2nd chord, A minor. It's 4, 4, 6. Then B minor. It's 5, 5, 7. Then we go to C major. It's going to be a 6, 4 open. We're going to do another shape like this for our 5 chord, 505. Gives us our D major. Then we have an E minor, which is 5, for open. And then we have an F sharp diminished, which will be 6, 5, 4. And then back to G major. Then we go to the 4th fret. Here's our scale. And then we've got the same chord shapes for the same chord. So we're going to go 0, 0, 6.5 for the 1 chord, that's A major. Then we're going to go 5, 5, 7 for our B minor. Then 6.5, 6.5, 8 for C sharp minor. Then we're going to go 7, 5 open for D major. E major, same shape, that's our 5 chord. We're going to go 505. So I think I said 505 before, which actually for our G, that was 404 I was doing for the D major chord there. So just in case I didn't go back and check that later. 505 for E major. F sharp minor is going to be 6.5, 5. Open. And then 7, 6.5, 5. Is a G sharp diminished, and then we'll go back to A. So once again, you find everything you need inside of the zone. 7 notes of the scale. Those 7 notes will provide melody and harmony, and then of course we can use them to build chords, and we have 7 chords that we can do, and they're all right there inside of the boxes. So when you're playing inside of these boxes, it's cool to kind of listen to see how these notes respond to each other, how the chords and the harmonies stack up. If you play here and you find those chords that belong, or those notes that belong inside the chord, A, C sharp, and E, for example, and then linger on the notes that don't belong in the chord, and you'll hear that they just don't feel resolved. They feel restless. They feel like they've got something more to say. And the reason those notes don't feel like they work if we linger with those chords is because they don't belong in the chord, and they're trying to change those extra notes, or trying to change the chord into something else. They are succeeding in changing the chord into something else. But it just doesn't sound the way we want it to, because we want a nice, uncomplicated major or a minor chord. And what we're getting is something a bit more complex. So if you linger and it doesn't sound happy, keep moving to the left or to the right. And if it sounds happy, then you have a chord tone and everything is where it needs to be. This is a cool thing to use when you're just messing around with the dulcimer. Use your bar chords and move them around. And once you get into any particular area that has a zone, you can use your thumb to bounce around inside that zone while holding down the bar chord, and that effectively changes the chord for us. So this is a great exercise. Just start moving around in the zones and see if you can come up with a tune just on the fly while you're messing around. Keep it to just D, G, and A. So open strum D, play in your zone. G zone, bar 3, and then use your thumb to whack away at these notes of the G major scale. And then move your bar to the 4th fret. Ignore the 6th fret for now. Play the notes of the scale with your thumb, and now you've got the A zone and its scale so that you can solo over the top of that. And now I'm just going to kind of mess around and give you an example of how I might employ this as an exercise, and then you can kind of have fun with it as well. example of moving chords around with your barre, moving into a zone, and then just moving your thumb around. Now, of course, we can extend that far outside of just D, G, and A, but that's a great place to start. Once you feel comfortable with that, then start moving into some of these other bars, these other fret areas, and then do the same thing with your thumb. And if you know that there's a scale there, play with it. If you don't know what the scale is there, play with it anyway. You just never know what you might discover through this sort of serendipity. Maybe come down to the 5th fret and do this. Because what you will find is in some of these bars, you will get into minor scales, and then things get really, really interesting, and they change the flavor and the color of what you're playing. So I hope that this has been eye-opening for you. And I hope it's something that you can play around with as we head into the fall, because there's a lot of study that takes place every year in the fall, and I've got a lot of really cool stuff in mind. And if you have anything that you're working on at home right now, think about it and then send me an email, bingfutch@yahoo.com. Let me know what you'd like to work on this fall, because I am all about setting up a curriculum for my patrons and for all viewers of Dulcimerica. And if you'd like to get in on that, send me an email with what you're working on, and I'll put some stuff together that we can all study in the coming months. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.